Welcome back on board the Starship, and we're talking with UFO researcher David Cayton. Now, the world of UFO research can get a bit murky, can't it, David? Because there's quite often there's infighting with people who come across stories and they want to keep them to themselves. And,
yeah,
and
I found this very disappointing and sad, really, because there's so much backbiting and petty jealousies between ufologists someone who came across a good case, for example, and for various reasons, sometimes monetary reasons, they seem to think they could earn megabucks by the media paying out a lot of money for reporting in the papers.
I mean, I've had experience of this, David, where people will report something to me on my website, and they'll have some photographs of what they perceive to be a brilliant UFO shot or whatever, and it's maybe quite average, and you say, well, I'll put that on my TV program. It's worth airing, and then they kind of back off and say, oh, well, no. They then start thinking of money. Immediately someone wants money for something, I just say, well, sorry, I can't help you.
Yeah, I remember Graham Bursell saying to me once, they will not pay big sums to the national media.
No.
And this is the illusion that people were under.
Yeah.
But it caused lots of upsets. Instead of disseminating the information for the benefit of ufology and everybody in it, they would keep it to themselves, like, I'm a private collector, I'm not letting you hear my case, and all this carry on.
Yeah.
And I think this infighting was almost encouraged by certain senior people in the Bufora, I'm sorry to say, whose objective, I think, is to do U-turns like Jenny Randall's and cause dissent. And the media, if they weren't tipped off, pick up on this and capitalise on it. And ufologists in the media were called all sorts of labels and not very derogatory comments like UFO spotters and anoraks and cranks and all this, which had the effect of putting members of the public off to coming to ufologists to report a sighting. And the way they saw the media were treating ufologists, like the media saying, I've heard so many times, look, ufologists can't even agree on a sighting, on a description of a craft or whatever, and all this backbiting. So that would also means that witnesses would the last people they would go to and distrust is the media, because then they would be made a fool publicly and ridiculed. So it impeded information being reported from members of the public who had a close encounter or something, getting out. And I think that was the intention.
Without mentioning any names, we suspect that certain people who do get a lot of media attention, we often wonder, whose agenda they are following. And why would somebody want to spend all of their life proving that something isn't true or a phenomenon isn't real, and that's all they're doing. To me, it doesn't seem that you would motivate yourself just to do that. That perhaps there is some hand at work from an authority, who knows what it is, that's making people take this particular stance.
Yeah, and to do it, for a decade or more continuously.
Yeah.
You would put yourself off, wouldn't you? If you would lose interest.
Eventually, if you think there's nothing to it, eventually you think, well, I've done enough research, there's nothing to it. I'm now going to go and
go fishing or something.
Yes, go fishing. Yeah, exactly. But they don't. They stick at it for decades.
Yes.
Pouring cold water on cases and sometimes coming up with preposterous explanations for concrete cases.
Yes.
Okay, and what about, we were talking about Harry Harris earlier on, and Harry has been very much involved with abductees.
Yes.
There's people who claim to have been, in their sleep, taken on board UFO craft and had operations done on them interfered with by extraterrestrials. It sounds unbelievable, but if you follow the work of people like Professor John Mack and Bud Hopkins, this is a real phenomenon. This is happening. And Harry Harris was a British researcher who regressed a lot of people.
I actually attended 4 of the hypnotic regression sessions. A couple of witnesses I found myself, which I handed to Harry. And I was always very sceptical about hypnosis, I suppose, born by these stage hypnotists.
Yes.
But I was impressed, and he was employing medical doctors, and they had training in it, and the dentists use it, and all sorts of trauma sort of things. So people ridicule hypnosis, but the medical profession use it all the time.
The thing that impressed me about something that Harry Harris said, I saw a video of him, and he said that what drew him into it and what made him believe that hypnotic regression was valid, he saw somebody regressed and that was taken back to their childhood. And they remembered all of these things in their childhood that they'd actually consciously forgotten.
Yes.
So they were then brought out of hypnosis and said, well, this is what you said about your childhood. All these things that this person had completely forgotten about, and was like, wow, now I remember that you've told me all of this stuff. So it does unlock memories which are in part of the brain which can't be accessed. There's no doubt that hypnotic regression works.
Yes.
That there's a conscious side of the brain and an unconscious side of the brain.
Yeah.
And it taps into that other side.
Yeah. Anyway, I was impressed the way this particular doctor, and he was charging a fee, obviously, brought the subject, put them under. We weren't allowed to see them put him under.
Right.
But he described a technique of like you're looking at a film and rolling the film backwards and forwards, and if the subject got too stressed, he said, I'm rewinding the film to bring them back. It was very good.
And of course, Harry Harris was the man who got B.C. Allen Godfrey through 4 hypnosis sessions, I believe. And I believe you've seen those tapes.
I've seen the tapes, yeah.
Right,
yeah.
okay.
Very good.
They're quite convincing, are they? Or?
Yeah, I think so, in places.
Right.
I mean, lots of it, nothing much is happening a lot of the time.
Right, okay.
But yeah, and I'm sure what happened to Alan was real. And he was taken in Todmorden. And Harry, the BBC did this programme, a Horizon programme.
About alien abduction
About
claims.
abductions, yes, claims. And it was fronted by Dr. Susan Blackmore, who was a psychologist, I think, with Bristol University.
It's kind of the public-friendly psychologist.
Yes, all bubbly, and she's a very presentable person, personality, which she's very good on screen.
Explains things in noddy terms for the noddy public.
And she linked up with a Canadian guy, Dr. Michael Persinger. And anyway, between them all having temporal lobe problems and dream paralysis and sleep paralysis, I should say, and all this false syndromes, whatever. And Harry, being Harry, was incensed, as a lot of people were, saw that programme, because it was clearly the BBC debunking abductions.
Yes.
And he contacted some brain surgeons in Harley Street, specialists, and they wrote back to Harry saying quite clearly she was talking a little rubbish.
Right, okay.
And out of order. And Harry had this information, and he went to this Lapis conference in Lytham St Anne's, again late 90s, I think. And the chairman was Sam Wright at the time, negotiated a slot. He wasn't scheduled to speak, and to spend 10 minutes reading the comments from these brain specialists.
From the brain specialists?
Yes, to shoot down...
what the BBC had shown on
the
Horizon programme.
Particularly Susan Blackmore,
Right, okay.
And he'd done that, and sat down, and they were about to start the next afternoon session. And again, this was a Bufora-linked associated conference. And the next thing, and I was reporting on it for Quest magazine, the proceedings, and they allowed me to run a tape recorder just as an aide-memoire for me to write the notes after, so I wouldn't forget what all the speakers have said. And it was the first time that Nick Pope had appeared on a UFO platform, and the national press did a bit of interview on the stage, as I remember.
So this would probably be just after he left his employment at the MOD, I
yes,
guess. Right,
and he was now an ex-MOD man getting into ufology, so he was big news. Anyway, I don't think Nick was in the hall when this disgraceful episode took place, but and I had my tape recorder running, so I have a record of this. And this chap marched up the centre aisle, and there was 350 people in the room.
Right.
And he shouted out, "Harris, you are the shit on the underpants of ufology." And everyone was in total shock.
Harry Harris, you are the shit on the underpants of ufology.
And the vice chairwoman, who was a woman of Lapis, was also shouting to back, supporting this chap, whose name was Joe Dormer, in making these rude comments about Harry,
Yeah.
which was absolutely disgraceful. And I didn't, to discredit Mark Birdsall, said he wouldn't include that episode in my report in the UFO magazine of the Lapis conference. But again, it was a sign to me that there was this trouble between ufologists. And I found out that the reason why he did this was because it was PCL and Godfrey again, the hypnosis tapes we mentioned earlier. Harry had lent to a member of Lapis out of interest, and unbeknown to Harry, they were mounting a Bufora conference in Blackpool, I think, sometime in the near future, and they were advertising as the main event. They were going to run to the public Alan's hypnosis tapes, and they had not got consent from Alan Godfrey in the first place, nor from Harry, whose tapes in copyright they were. And Harry, someone tipped him off, and he found out. Contacted Alan Godfrey, who of course blew his top, and insisted it was withdrawn. So their main crowd puller to get bums on seats was that those tapes, and that's why they were upset with Harry, and why that guy made those disgusting remarks. I thought this is bad news for ufology.
Yes. Well, we'll talk more after the next section, because this time each week I'm going to introduce the artist of the week, where we get a singer or a band, and this week we're featuring singer-songwriter Ronnie Lambert, who sadly died last year, and his wife Hazel has agreed for us to play this track, which is a superb track, and it's all about the history of Northumbria.
From the Tweed down to the Tees, from the Cheviot Hills to the Great North Sea, lies a realm of days gone by, steeped in bloody war and filled with battle cry. Once came the mighty hand of Rome, reached these distant shores and made this land her own. And we took 400 years to civilize. As soon as she was gone, the work of her hand we despised. I can hear the Vandals cry, this is my land, Northumbria, this is my land, Northumbria. Soon the Saxon would arrive to rape and burn and pillage, nothing would survive. The Viking found his way here too. Marauders came from Mercia, seeking pastures new. Imagine young King Oswald as he knelt in prayer. Cadwallader's pagan hordes were on their way. He fought them down from Heavenfield to Hexhamshire. Those Welsh invaders died that very day. I can hear young Oswald say, this is my land, this is my land, Northumbria, this is my land, this is my land, Northumbria, this is my land, this is my land, this is my land, Northumbria, this is my land, this is my land, Northumbria, this is my land. Kings have come and gone for years, and the kingdom of Northumbria has drowned in many tears. Yet her pride and spirit still prevail, in a history, in a culture, and a wealth of ancient tales. Her peace at last is there for all to see, and her only battle now is to attract new industry. As a tourist throng invades the northeast coast, they find themselves confronted with a warm and friendly host. I can hear the northeast boast, this is my land, this is my land, Northumbria, my land, this is my land, this is my land, Northumbria, my land, this is my land, this is my land, Northumbria, my land, this is my land, this is my land, Northumbria.